A recent article published in a Montreal daily informs us that Gabrielle Bouchard, a transgender man, is now the new president of the Quebec Women's Federation, a man at the head of a women's federation. How did this happen? To understand how this came about, we have to unmask the ideology that's called gender theory. Hatched over 30 years in the dank confines of gender studies departments throughout North America, gender ideology promotes the belief that gender, male or female, has no relation to biological sex. So a person can have the biology of a male, all the while being a woman in his head. Furthermore, according to this belief, it would be wrong to refuse a person their chosen identity. But then I have a question. Where does this so-called right to self-identification end, and why? Because you see, normally we identify people as male or female using physical, observable criteria. Women have characteristics that we can see objectively. We can count them. We can describe them. Men too. A recent study shows that men and women have more than 1,500 genetic differences. But now we've thrown all these objective criteria out the window. People now have the so-called right to self-identify based on how they feel. So if this is the case, what's to stop me from self-identifying as a Native woman and then reaping all the tax-based and job access benefits from that identification? For that matter, what's to stop me from self-identifying as Bill Gates and then turning around and demanding that $30 billion be deposited in my bank account? Some could answer that I can't identify as Bill Gates or a Native woman because I don't have their traits. But so-called transgender people don't have the traits of the sex they identify with either. Moreover, Québec Solidaire, the marginal but somewhat influential crypto-Marxist party of Quebec, has fought so that the chosen sex of so-called trans people could be legally recognized without the need for any kind of surgery. So a man wouldn't have to mutilate himself to be identified as a woman. But if a man can declare himself a woman without any of the visible traits of a woman, then I should be able to declare myself a disabled Native woman, all the while neither having the traits of a woman, nor of a Native, nor of a disabled person. Progress is wonderful, isn't it? Given the affirmative action policies now in force in Quebec, I should be a shoo-in for just about every government job they post. But there's more. Now some are even self-identifying as children. Meet Stephanie, a trans father of 7 who became, quote-unquote, a 5-year-old girl. And here's a question for you. What if a 50-year-old man identifies as a 14-year-old boy? Would it be a crime for him to have sexual relations with a 13-year-old girl? And if I self-identify as an old man, do I get an old age pension? And why stop at humanity? Why not self-identify as a dragon, like this fellow, who identifies as the dragon called Tiamat? Or why not self-identify as a wolf, like this young man?
On all levels except physical, I am a wolf.
How long before this leads to man-beast marriage? Love wins. The logical outcome of all this is the juridical abolition of all reference to sex, age, and even species, as these categories would not correspond any longer to anything observable or public. But it doesn't stop there. This delirium risks undermining reason itself, and with it, our whole civilization. We soon won't be able to say the truth about anything without risking offending someone who has chosen to live according to their own made-up reality. This is political correctness times 1,000. So let's stop this gender ideology madness. Most people know it's complete nonsense. And it's high time that we demand that our representatives stop deforming our laws to accommodate it. But it's also important that we don't fall in the trap of political correctness in our day-to-day lives. We have to call things by their proper names, even though doing so might ruffle some feathers. To be honest, evidence points to the fact that transgenders, transethnics, transspecies, trans etc. are people in dire need of spiritual and psychological help, and confirming people in their delusion is not help. Thank you for listening, and until next time.